Hi friends, this is Mara again with another Childhood Hours video. Let me take you somewhere for a second. It's late afternoon in a small Italian town. The sun is low, the light is honey-colored. The piazza, the main square, is alive. Old men are at a cafe table, arguing about something. A grandmother in a printed dress is calling someone's name across the square. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, completely unself-conscious, completely unhurried, children are running. Now, a Sunday kitchen. It's noon. The table is already set for 12. Pasta sauce has been simmering since 8 in the morning. 3 generations are arriving. Grandparents, parents, cousins, aunts, all talking at the same time, all kissing each other on both cheeks, all finding their seat. And in this swirl of noise and steam and love, a child learns what it means to belong. Because in Italy, childhood doesn't happen in a bedroom or a classroom or a scheduled activity. It happens at the table, in the piazza, in the middle of everyone. Italy doesn't ask its children to grow up quickly, it asks them to stay close. So, what does it actually look like to grow up Italian? One word holds the answer. Mammismo. In Italian culture, there's an unspoken understanding, perhaps the deepest cultural belief the country holds, that the family comes first, before institutions, before the state, before individual ambition, before almost anything. Mammismo is the invisible architecture of an Italian childhood. Everything we're going to talk about today grows from this root. Italy. 60 million people. Home to some of the world's most ancient cities, its most celebrated cuisine, and one of the planet's most tenacious family cultures. The boot-shaped country stretches from the Alps in the north to the warm Mediterranean south. And from tip to toe, the way children are raised carries one constant thread. Italy has one of the lowest birth rates in the developed world, around 1.2 children per woman. And yet, Italian children are rarely alone. When the nuclear family is small, the extended family fills in. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, all active, all present. In Italy, a child may have very few siblings, and an enormous family. When a baby is born in Italy, the whole family comes, immediately. Catholic baptism, battesimo, typically happens within the first few months of life. And it's as much a social gathering as a spiritual one. Godparents are chosen carefully. A long meal follows. The child enters the community as a known person, not just a new arrival. In Italy, the nonna, grandmother, is often the de facto third parent. She picks up from school, she cooks the afternoon meal, she passes down dialect words and recipes and the specific way her family folds laundry. Italian childcare is family first by design. Grandparents provide the continuity that nurseries and daycare centers offer elsewhere. This isn't just tradition, it's infrastructure. Italian preschool, Scuola dell'Infanzia, begins at age 3 and runs until 6. And it is, by international standards, remarkably unhurried. No phonics drills, no early literacy targets. The emphasis is on creativity, social learning, and play. Italy's early childhood education philosophy says, let children be children. The academics can wait a few more years. But the most important classroom in Italy doesn't have walls. The piazza, the town square, is where Italian children learn how the world actually works. They navigate adult conversation. They observe community rituals. They run, argue, fall, and get back up in full view of everyone. Italian childhood is lived in public, visible, connected, warm. Primary school, Scuola primaria, begins at 6 and runs for 5 years. The curriculum is broad. Italian language, mathematics, history, science, music, and the arts. There's a strong humanities tradition baked into Italian education. Beauty matters here, so does history. Italian children grow up deeply embedded in their cultural past, because their school makes sure of it. Italian schools assign homework, sometimes quite a lot. But the atmosphere around it is different from what you'd find in Korea or Japan. A child does their compiti at the kitchen table while dinner is being made. Learning happens inside the rhythms of family life. There are fewer tutoring centers, less competitive pressure, school ends, and then you come home. Here is something that surprises almost every visitor to Italy. There is no kids' table. Italian children eat with adults, at restaurants, at family gatherings, at every occasion. They sit, listen, observe, and eventually participate. They learn to navigate adult social spaces not because they're trained to, but because they've never been excluded from them. From a young age, Italian children absorb something called bella figura. Literally, beautiful figure. It means presenting yourself with care, dressing neatly, behaving with dignity in public. This isn't vanity, thus it's a deeply held cultural value about how you represent yourself, your family, and your community. In Italy, how you appear in the world reflects on everyone who raised you. Bound tightly to mammismo is a concept called mammismo, the deep, lasting bond between Italian mothers and their children, especially their sons. Italy has one of the highest rates of young adults living at home in Europe. Children don't rush to leave, mothers don't push them out. The nest stays warm, and nobody seems to mind. When we covered Finland, our very first episode, we talked about how Finnish children are given radical independence from a young age, walking to school alone at 7, making decisions without rescue, learning to stand on their own. Italy and Finland are asking different questions entirely. Finland asks, what does a child need to become? Italy asks, why would a child ever need to face anything alone? Perhaps nowhere is mammismo more visible than on a Sunday morning in Italy. The pranzo della domenica, Sunday family lunch, can run 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours. Multiple generations around one table. Stories, arguments, dessert, coffee, more arguing. Italian children sit through all of it, absorbing family history, emotional dynamics, and the long, patient art of conversation. Food in Italy is how culture is transmitted. Children learn to cook not as a chore, but as inheritance. The specific way their nonna makes her ragu, the exact pasta shape that belongs to this region, the recipe no one ever wrote down but everyone knows. In Italy, teaching a child to cook is teaching them who they are. Italy has one of the highest rates of young adults living with their parents in Europe. Italians have a self-aware nickname for them, bamboccioni, literally, big babies. In other cultures, this signals failure. In Italy, it mostly signals comfort. Why leave a warm table? Why rush toward a cold apartment? The family will still be there. Italy is also deeply regional in ways that shape childhood. A child raised in Milan has a fundamentally different experience from one raised in Naples, or Sicily, or the Veneto. Different dialects, different festivals, different relationships to tradition and modernity. To grow up Italian is also to grow up profoundly local, shaped by one specific place with its own specific way of loving its children. Catholic traditions still mark the Italian childhood year. Baptism, First Communion, Confirmation, village festivals honoring local saints. Even in secular families, these events gather extended family, create shared memories, and weave children into the rhythms of their community. Italy's faith and culture are deeply braided. And even when the faith fades, the gathering remains. But of all the gifts Italy gives its children, the most quietly radical one might be this: time, dolce far niente. It translates as the sweetness of doing nothing. In a world that tells children to optimize, achieve, and produce, Italy holds out something different. The long afternoon with nothing scheduled, the slow walk home, the hour at the table after the plates are cleared and nobody has moved yet. Italian children learn early that the richest moments in life aren't achieved. They're simply lived. Dolce far niente. When Italian children grow up and finally leave home, they carry this with them. The belief that slowing down isn't wasted time, that gathering around a table isn't inefficient, that a childhood steeped in family food and Sunday afternoons that go nowhere is not a childhood that was missing something. It is the whole point. So here's what I want to know from you. Did you grow up with a Sunday table? A nonna who always showed up? Meals that lasted for hours and somehow felt like everything? Or did your childhood look more like Finland, independent, self-reliant, out the door early? If this episode moved you, that's exactly what this series is for. Subscribe so you don't miss our next stop. Argentina, the country where passion and identity are woven into childhood from the very first kick of a football. I cannot wait. And if you haven't caught the rest of the series yet, Finland, Korea, Brazil, Nigeria, Japan, India, the Netherlands, Mexico, every episode is linked below. I'm Mara. See you next time. Ciao.